but we'll manage. Today, my talk is going to be about the Amsterdam Sephardic archives, the archives of the Portuguese-Jewish community in Amsterdam. Portuguese, because most of the first arrivals in the community were Portuguese, but there were also Spaniards, Moroccans, Italians, people from the Balkan, you name it. And I will start off with talking about the beginnings. There are lots of legends about the Amsterdam Portuguese-Jewish community, including Maria Nunez, Uriah Levy, Jacob Tirado, Uriel da Costa, and others. Maria Nunez was on board of a ship from Portugal with Jews, Portuguese Jews on it, and they were headed for Amsterdam. But they got blown off, of course, and they ended up in London. They met Queen Elizabeth. I don't know how, but Queen Elizabeth was quite taken with Maria Nunez and promised to marry her off to one of her noblemen. But Maria, who was very religious, turned the offer down and left England for Amsterdam. There she married and became happily married ever after and happily ever after a Jew. That's the legend. Like all legends, there are there are kernels of truth in them. So let's see about Maria Nunez. We have here her marriage ban. And the marriage ban is a sort of an announcement of a marriage. Amsterdam had several registers for recording marriages. One of them was for the true religion, which was, of course, the Dutch Reformed Church. And the other was for all the dissenters, among them Jews, Baptists, maybe even some Muslims. These marriage bans are wonderful sources of information. This one is the marriage of Duarte from Maranta in Portugal with Maria Nunez. And she was actually a Maria Nunez de Sá from Portugal. And they decided to marry. And we don't know yet if they lived in this period as Jews, because this was early days yet. And it's quite possible that they lived as Catholics outwardly and only later became Jews. Maria Nunez and her husband left after a few years for Spain. And it is reported that he died in Sevilla and she also. So they probably returned to Catholicism or were Catholics all the time. But she is at the heart of the legend, and she was indeed Jewish at one time. Another, well, these are the marriage bans. You find them in the indexes in Amsterdam, and this is one of the main sources of information about Portuguese Jews outside of the archives of the community itself. Another important source are the, one moment, are the notarial archives of Amsterdam, and they are vast, enormous even, They cover 4,000 meters of shelf room in the archive. And the Amsterdam archives are in the process of digitizing them all. The first known Jew to arrive in Amsterdam came there in 1595. And his name was, you can read it here, Manuel Rodriguez da Veiga. This is about a letter of exchange, and itself not so very important, but he is the first to be mentioned in any Amsterdam document. If you read about Amsterdam Jews or about Portuguese Jews arriving in Amsterdam before that date, take it with a grain of salt. I will return shortly to the archives and I'll tell you something about how to search in there. It's to the indexes. The indexes are indexes to parts of the archives, and they are mostly on names. This is a general source, so also Christians, atheists, dissenters, and all other folks turn up in here, but also Portuguese Jews. And the best way to search in here is through uitgebreid zoeken, which means that you have more possibilities to narrow your search down. Once you're in here, you can add a name, and this field remembers everything you have done before. And so if you type in the letter A at achternaam or surname, you can choose. I choose this one, Abenatar. There's a tilde behind it, and this means that it will search for fuzzy results. Remove the tilde and you will get only exact results, of which there are a lot. And this goes on pages, for a lot of pages. As you can see, all Abenatars. If I would search for fuzzy, you would get even more results. You can narrow it down by adding a first name, Abraham, with a tilde. That will give you fuzzy results. That means alternative spellings for the name Abraham. And again, you can sort on date, very useful, or on place, but it's almost always Amsterdam or for source. And here, you also have the possibility to narrow your search down. Alas, the Amsterdam Archives does not have an English page, so it's a matter of buying a dictionary and get acquainted with the various terms. But this is ondertrouwregister, and it means marriage ban. If I click that, I get only people called Abraham Abenatar. And there are only 6 of them. So now it's more overzichtelijk, we say in Dutch. You click on that and you go to the source, which is the Amsterdam marriage bans. If you click in the image, it will enlarge automatically. You will have to get used to that, but it will give you a better view of the source. I'm looking for Abenatar. Here he is. There is an index on dutchjewry.org of these marriage bans. That is useful to find out if there is a marriage. But if you find a marriage, always check the original marriage ban because it has more information. For example, it says that Abenader is from Amsterdam. He's 20 years old. He lives in the Weesperstraat. He is assisted with his father, and his bride is Sarah Israel Atias, also from Amsterdam. And it has their signatures. Most Portuguese Jews, certainly those coming from Portugal and Spain themselves, could read and write, and most of the women also. The illiteracy among Portuguese men is about, in that time, is about 1%. That's comparable to the general population of today. So there are other possibilities here, but we are going to do a talk about the Portuguese-Jewish archive, so let's go there. This is the starting page. And here you see toegangsnummer, which stands for the number of the archive. If you scroll down here and you look at, one moment. I go to the last page with archives. There are 340 pages. There are 3,400 archives in the Amsterdam archives. So you need to know your way around here. Toegangsnummer of the Portuguese Jewish community is 334. That's one of the few things that you need to remember. You press search and scroll down, and there it is. Inventaris van het archief van de Portugees-Israëlitische gemeente, inventory of the archive. This starts with an explanation, only in Dutch, and this is a recent edition. It used to be a PDF at some place elsewhere. Someone thought that it was a good thing to add the description of the archive before you go to the real inventory, which is totally down and down and down. And here you have the archives, finally. I'm not happy with that explanation put above the inventory. I will be happy if they would change that back to the former situation, but more changes are coming. This is the archive, and you see here the structure of the archive. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And the first 3 numbers represent the first 3 communities of Amsterdam. Later they merged into one, but in the beginning there were 2 communities. First was Beth Jacob, circa 1608, and Neve Salom, which was established somewhat later. Click on the link. It will give you more results. You will see that there are 8 inventory numbers here. Here is another plus. Click on it and it will open up. And this is a thing to remember, that this is a layered structure. You may have to click your way through 4, 5 levels of the archives to get where you want to be. Let's go back to the first one. This is the Livro do Bet Chaim do Kahal Kados. This is the burial register of the Amsterdam archives. And if you click on an image, you will immediately arrive there. it will open up. This is an overview of 10 pages. I enlarged it so it will be better visible. And I want to take you to the 10 pages per overview, but you can change that. I'm taking you to overview 2 to page, let me see, 18. And this is something you wouldn't expect in a burial register, but it's the first list of winter payers of Beth Jacob. These are the members of the community. They were mostly merchants, and they paid anything from 1 to 20 guilders to become a member of the community. Navigating here is ezel scan overzicht, which takes you back to the overview. But you can also go from page to page here. This is 1 page back. And the other arrow right below is 1 page ahead. And the next page has the first burials of Bethlehem in Ouderkerk and Amsterdam. The Portuguese Jews were not allowed to bury their dead in Amsterdam, or perhaps they didn't ask for permission. They did have a burial ground in Groet in North Holland, near the coast, but that was too far away from Amsterdam, very unpractical and very expensive. So they bought a piece of land in Ouderkerk and Amstel outside of Amsterdam that they could easily reach by boat, because that was the means of transport. And the first person to be buried here was the moher, the Jacob Musaf, the wife of Jacob Musafia. At his burial were present several persons, and they offered money as a mitzvah for the community. And this money went to Bethlehem or to Beth Jacob. 5 persons were present, among them Raphael or Abo Diente, a central figure in the early community. The next burial is the son of a Moses Montalto. Present at his burial were Jacob del Monte, Moses Montalto, his son, or no, the father, sorry, Abraham Ferrar, and Eliao Yesron Lopez. This register has also been published in the original language in Portuguese by Wilhelmina Petersen. It's still available at the Amsterdam archives itself. And if you go there, it's not very expensive. Buy it and you will have a wealth of information. To go back to your to the archives, I press terug back, which is to the left above. There are more registers of Beth Jacob. This one is about a quarrel in the community in 1618, which led to the establishment of a second community. More about that later. By the way, Venice, Talmud Torah in Venice is the mother community of Amsterdam. And maybe that's why Amsterdam called itself Talmud Torah later. The next one is a Livro Grande, a groot book, but actually it has the names of all the members of this community. and it has the expenses. What you see here on the very first page is Misvat de Eres Israel. So from the very beginning, they gave to Eres Israel. And they considered this a central duty for the community. But it was also a means of getting connected to the other Sephardic communities in the world. Let me see. There are more pages like this. And here is one. No, not yet. I'll skip a few. If you fill in a number here, you will get to another page. This is a means of moving fast. This is a page with members, with a few members of Dotar. Of Bet Jacob. And this one is Joseph Bivas with the amount of fintas he paid. This is Abenater again, but another Abenater. And the amount of finta synagogue tax that he paid, etc., etc. And this register runs from 1621 to 1623. And there's a strange mistake here. And has all the members of the community of that period. And there's another one from later. Now and then you will see registers that are not to be consulted because they are in a bad state. We will see examples of a bad state later on. So this will not be digitized yet, unless it will be restored. And we don't know when they will be able to do that. The fifth register of Bet Jacob is a register of promesas, which is a voluntary contribution to the community, and fintas, which was the church, the synagogue tax. And this was obligated. And then there are these run from 1616 to 1632, promesas y fintas, and they will have all the members of Bet Jacob. The second of the three communities is Neve Salom. And Neve Salom started somewhere around 1610, but it's the first archives begin in 1616. And this is a book of expenses on the one side and income on the other side. And on this side are the expenses of the year, 5376 or 1616. And here is the income provided by members of the community. I'm mistaken here. No, this is, let me see. I was one page off. These are the members of Neve Salom in the year 1616. And you can see their names. And this is alphabetically ordered, so the rest of them should be here. No. I'm sorry to have your heads bobbing up and down. Here are the members of Neve Salom. Ishak Mokate, and this is the ancestor of the English Mokata family, by the way. Jacob Barzilai, Jonas Abarvano, the brother-in-law of Menasseh ben Israel, Isaac Atias, the Chacham Ishak Uziel, who came from Morocco. In the beginning, the Portuguese-Jewish community had no rabbis of themselves. And at the very beginning was an Ashkenazic rabbi, Uri Levi. He came from Emden, and he is also part of the legends, but he also did exist, and he instructed the first Jews in what it meant to be a Jew. For these Portuguese Jews had different levels of knowledge of Judaism. Some did not come from Portugal, from Morocco, and they were fully instructed and fully Jewish. But others came from Portugal and had lived there as Catholics, and over the years had lost some knowledge. And there was a debate going on about how Jewish they were when they came to Amsterdam. This is Neve Salom, and Neve Salom only has one register. The third community is Beth Israel. And this is the register with the resolutions of the Mahamat of Beth Israel. Beth Israel was established in 1618 after a quarrel within Beth Jacob. And this register has some of the most beautiful handwriting. And I'll look. Page. I'll go like this. Page 6, we are there. You can see the beautiful handwriting from this scribe. And from the very beginning, they also registered their possessions. This is a page with the Sefer Torahs in the possession of Beth Israel in 1619. And all the other belongings that belong to the Sefer Torah. They also had lamps, and they were very attached to their possessions. They kept track of them at all times. So you might find various lists of Sefer Torahs, lampadas, romanim, pointers, and books. And this is one of the first one of them. Go to page 8. Here's the nomination of the Samas. And here is the nomination of David Paredo. He was the son of Joseph Paredo. He himself became a Chazan only, although you may read that he was a Chacham here and there. He became so in 1639 only, officially. But as the son of Joseph Pardo and a knowledgeable person, he still had a role to play in the community of Amsterdam. But Israel also has other registers holding promesas and fintas, and here you might find the members of the community of Beth Jacob. Beth Israel. So the three communities, Beth Jacob, Neve Salom, and Beth Israel, all had registers that kept track of their fintas and of their promesas, of their expenses, but they do not cover each and every year. Even so, these registers together allow us to reconstruct the membership of these communities. The three communities decided to work together at the very early stage in the board of the Imposter. The board of the Imposter was an institution that was called into existence because of the problem of the poor. Poor kept turning up in Amsterdam, as well as the richer merchants, and they were perceived as a problem then. And the three communities together decided that they could not do so on their own. So they organized this together. They gathered, they levied the tax on international trade of 1 promille. So if you made a trade deal of 1 guilder, of 10 guilders, then you paid 1% of that, 1/10 of a guilder in Imposter. 1 promille, again, is 1/10 of 1%. Let's go to this register and I'll show you just a few things of this. 50s. This is not what I meant. Yes. This is the board of the Imposter. And I should be on page 7. And here we have the very first official list of the poor of Amsterdam. The board of the Imposter was established to collect money, and the money was given to the poor. And one part of that was payments to the poor that lived in Amsterdam, La Terra, the Amsterdam. And one part of the money was meant for getting rid of the poor, send them away to other countries to dispatch. These are the so-called dispatchers, and we find them in another register. But the poor are here, and there are quite a few of those lists in this register. So if you're anxious is not among the Yedim, the members of the first 3 communities, because he had no money to pay Finta or Promesa, you can find them here. I'm now going to the Journal of the Imposter, which is a financial register. And I'll let you see two things here. This is a list of merchants and the imposter that they paid on international trade deals. And if you look at Eliel Israel Valverde here, he paid 14 guilders in imposta, which meant that he made a deal of 1,400 guilders. And you can pick out the rich merchants easily here. Here is Matatias Aboab with 144 guilders, which meant that he had traded for the amount of 144,000 guilders in that year, 1634 alone. And those are sizable sums. And on the basis of these sums, Odette of Lissing has said that the contribution of Amsterdam Portuguese-Jews must to the economy of Amsterdam must have been very much larger than previously thought. Here's another one, 15 guilders. And here's a brother pair, Abraham and Moses Salom, 155 guilders, which stands for 155,000 guilders in trade. And there are some lists of poor in here too. These are the poor of the year, and then we have to go to the top of the page, 1632, and Amoher de Ab Perez, the wife of Abraham Perez, Jacob Franco, to the right, Judica Mulata, apparently a slave or a former slave who converted to Judaism, and she got 16 stivers to live from. Some people got substantial amounts, like this one, Fio de Campos, 40 guilders, and it could be that this sum was meant for their voyage to another country, like here's someone who gets sent to Italia. Now, this is the board of the Imposter as a sort of working together of the three original communities. But the pressure of the poor and other developments like the arrival of Ashkenazim in Amsterdam forced them to merge into one. We'll close this down. And so there's 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3 is the first three communities. 4 is the board in which they work together, and 5 is the community into which they merged. And
Ton, you said to stop you after 45 minutes. We're 40 minutes, but I was just wondering if this was the right point to stop and do Talmud Torah on the next meeting, and unless you want to just.
And it will be a sequence of 4 or 5.
Well, your choice. I was just thinking perhaps the 3 original congregations as a good cutoff point.
Okay.
Can I ask some questions about the imposter though? Are there Dutch civil records on the tax? That's to say, do we know if these people were declaring the correct amount of tax? I mean, assuming they were telling the synagogue the correct amount of tax, were they telling the Amsterdam authorities the right amounts?
Well, if they lied, we will never know. But there are several tax registers where Jews also appear. I can think of the 100th penny, which was a tax of 100th of each penny that you earned.
Yes.
And everyone was liable for that. I don't know if they are kept all, but at least some, and they may have Jews. And so you would be able to check if the imposter lists are correct. Then there was a tax on houses. If you owned the house, you paid tax for that house. This was a one-time tax because the city of Amsterdam did not have enough money at that time, and they just imposed it on all the inhabitants. I don't have it ready. I will have next time, but there you find about 100 Jews rich enough to own a house in Amsterdam.
Okay, and with the imposter, it's just the amount. We have no idea where they were trading.
No, for that you have to go to the notarial archives, and there you will find all sorts of deeds having to do with trade. And the Amsterdam notarial archives are being digitized and indexed. In terms of digitizing, they are doing fairly well. In terms of indexing, I believe they are now somewhere between 5 and 10% of everything that they eventually will index. So there's some way to go there yet.
And they're quite difficult because just as we've all learned Portuguese, we now have to learn Dutch. So
those notarial archives have Dutch, but they also have Portuguese deeds, Spanish deeds, Italian deeds, and some notaries specialized in that. So you know that you have to go to them to do your research. And I name here Baddel, Lavello, ticks around that, and quite a few others. And well into the 18th century, you may find last wills in Spanish or Portuguese.
Yes.
And there are even wills in Dutch that say that there is an interpreter present to translate the Dutch for the Portuguese Jews who did not know Dutch.
Well, hopefully still there. But Bernard, do you have a question?
Yes, thanks. That's a really valuable presentation, Ton. Thank you for all your work, as always. I had 3 questions. 2 of them are partly answered, but you've talked about the archives that have already been digitized, and some have been indexed. Does that mean that the ones that have not yet been indexed are not word searchable?
No.
Okay.
No, they are online. You can search them, but I'll tell you a trick. Most of these notarial registers have an index, either up front or at the back. So always scroll, go to the first pages, and then check the last pages if there is an index. And often it says with an index or without an index in the inventory.
That's a really useful tip. Thank you. The second one is, it's a very specific question. We had a talk at the Jewish Genealogy Society this afternoon about Dutch cemeteries. And we were, of course, shown wonderful pictures of the impressive graves of the rich. But I wondered what happened to the poor who couldn't afford burials and who couldn't afford elaborate headstones. Did the community provide, did they get it, some kind of assistance in the form of finta? Is there a record of assistance? And this would be for people who wouldn't have been paying Imposter because they'd never have earned enough.
You are running ahead of my presentation.
Oh, sorry.
But I'll show you. These are financial registers.
Right.
And I see now that I could never have gotten there. Here's one a bit hidden. It begins with the number 215. It's called the Livro Longo. It's 14, there are 14 registers over the years, and they begin in 1663. They are well readable. The script is sometimes not good, and I will take you to this one, 219, and then sorry. Page. Yeah. This is a page with what is called gasto gerais cum causas da nação. It's a general general costs for the nation, and these are fascinating in many aspects. And if you go through these and you look for this this amount of money, 6, and you read what is there, it says, en primero día por o barco e caixa de, and then I don't know what this, yeah, this is Rafael Koen Henriques. So this means that this is a payment for a boat and the coffin.
The cemetery.
And the boat took the body of Rafael Koen Henriques from Amsterdam to Ouderkerk aan de Amstel, so the Amstel. This costs money, half of that probably for the boat, half for the coffin. And the community paid this for the poor.
Thank you.
And the nice or not so nice thing of this is that you find this in no index anywhere.
Okay, thank you. And I have a third question. That's really helpful, though. And the third question is, at what point in history did Amsterdam introduce something equivalent to the imposter, like an income tax? Is there some stage, and did that then affect the imposter payments, or did they carry on in exactly the same way?
The community of Amsterdam was called itself a nation, and that's what it is, a nation within a nation. Mm-hmm. The taxes that the members of the community paid to their community were not dependent on outside influences, except when everybody was poor in a war, for instance, or if there were circumstances within the community, then taxes were lowered and expenses were lowered. But the community could levy its own taxes, was independent in the way how they did it, and they could levy what they liked or what they thought their community members could pay.
Thank you. Very helpful.
We have a question. Oh, yes, I'm muted. We have a question from Doris who asked whether you can give more information on how to access records of the poor and those who were sent away to other countries, presumably staying with just the first 3 congregations rather than the later Talmud Torah.
Yes.
I don't know about tzedakah lists or.
Well, the board of the Imposter is online. It can be searched, but not through an index. There's no index of the board of the Imposter yet.
Can you show us which one it is?
Okay, that's number 17. I'm too far ahead now. Okay. This is the board of the Imposter. That's number 4. And the first register has the resolutions of the board, and then number 17 is the so-called journal. I don't know of an exact English translation of it, but it gives expenses and income on a day-to-day basis, not a cash register, because a cash register only has cash, but all the income. And you can just go there. So a fast way to get there is if you are on the page Inventarissen of Amsterdam and you type the inventory number in here, 17, search, and you should get straight there, except it's a bit, oh no, yeah, we are there. Click on the link and you are there. And then you have to read it. Thank you.
Arnold asked a related question about money sent to Israel, to Terra Santa. Is that in the same place?
Yeah. Yes, it's not in the board of the Imposter. And because of these first 3 communities, not everything has been preserved. In fact, only a small portion has been preserved. Not all the payments to Terra Santa are there, but they are for Beth Jacob, they are here in the Grootboek, but also in the Manual da Tzedakah. This one has not been digitized yet. So your main source will be the Livro Grande. And Neve Salom, there's only 1 register, but each year the money paid to Israel is noted. And it's mostly a few hundred guilders per year. And but Israel, you have to look in these. And as you can see, these were kept from 1626 to 1639. So 10 years, the 10 first years of the community are missing here. But they also have occasionally payments to Israel.
Thank you. And Bruce is asking a question. Well, you should answer it. Are there digital tools for reading the handwritten entries to convert them to digital text?
Yes, there are. There are various programs. We work a lot with, I don't work a lot with it, but we as a whole do. We work with Transcribus, which is a platform built by Austrians, and there you can upload pages like the one I showed from this will be an excellent one. The one from the journalist, all these merchants, because the handwriting is clear and mostly the same. And the program like Transcribus would transcribe that with maybe a margin error of 5 to 1%. But it's a tedious process. It involves a lot of learning, and not everyone has the patience to do so.
And if I could beg, if anyone wants to donate some money to the Sephardic Genealogical Society, we need money to help with the Transcribus, specifically with uploading documents that then can be processed by the University of Vienna. And we have questions on YouTube. Gazilion Peter asks, was there a way of the community to enforce its taxes, or was there sort of just basically did they have a way of enforcement, or was it just like shaming people to pay up?
I don't know about shaming, and
Probably wouldn't work with that lot.
I don't think they had many means to enforce it. Or I mentioned that they had independence, but not in every respect. What they could not do was bodily punishment. They could not administer death, bodily punishment, and they could not execute someone for anything, let alone taxes. So it might have been a persuasion, and it might have been rabbis teaching about the necessities of the poor and how important for the poor and important for yourself it was to give. And they could throw you out. And they could put a herem on you, and you would then be cut off from the community. Mostly this was repaired within a few days by paying your taxes and paying a fine, but that was the ultimate means for coercion.
Okay, thank you. And we'd like to welcome Isaac Karub from Madrid. We're very, very pleased that you joined us today. You at the beginning, you mentioned there was another cemetery elsewhere in Northern Holland.
Yeah.
Are there any records of that? I honestly, I never heard of it before.
Yes, I know. It's in Groot, somewhere near the coast. And it functioned for a few years. And when Bethlehem was started, most of the bodies were and stones were transported to Amsterdam, and the bodies were reinterred there. But not all the stones not all the stones of wood returned. And a few years ago, someone found a burial stone of the Jewish cemetery of Groot as a stepping stone in the church, the Reformed Church in Groot. It turned out that this was a Hebrew gravestone from the beginning of the 17th century, and they returned it to Bethlehem.
Okay.
So the graves that are indexed on Dutch jewelry may also include some persons that were first buried in Groot.
Okay, thank you. And Doris asked whether people made donations when they got called up to the Torah, when they received Aliyot.
In the synagogue, I presume.
Yeah. Yeah, correct.
They paid always cash, of course. Except the very rich, they could leave money in the form of bonds or investments in state capital. But most people gave cash. And yeah, there were also boxes in the synagogue to collect money for specific purposes. One had the inscription Terra Santa, and the other was had the name Sedaka. So you could give to the Sedaka or to Terra Santa, and this mostly happened during or after services on Shabbat.
Well, they're not going to put money in on Shabbat, I think, but I think we still have those boxes at Bevis Marks, actually.
Okay.
So what other questions do we have? Can you just, I don't know if you know the origins, because you said that of these three early communities, one was the product of a split. But yeah. Did the two first communities, as it were, come from different places, or why were there two communities?
There has been done some research into that. People have tried to discover tribes within the three, yeah. But it appears not to be the case. It appears that people choose from for their own convenience. They lived in a neighborhood, or all three synagogues were on Vlooienburg. In Amsterdam.
Okay.
So they were quite close together, but you lived near one synagogue and you went to that one. Also, in the promesas, you might find the names of a member of another synagogue giving towards the other synagogue. So he was visiting that synagogue. So people were not always visiting their own synagogue, but also another one. Maybe because someone was preaching there that they liked very much. Something like that.
Are there any, for the three first congregations, are there any school records, or especially records of girls, because often we don't have information on girls or young women?
No and yes. There were no. I have seen no girls. No, I'm not speaking to this. There will be a post on the Sephardic diaspora. I discovered the name of one woman in a list of students of Etzchaim, beginning 18th century. But I don't know if she was a student or maybe the wife of a student who had died or something like that. But otherwise, I've seen no women studying at Talmud Torah or Etzchaim, but they will have had education and may have been at home, or it may have been in private schools. There were also private schools. And some of the teachers of those private schools also took poor children, and the community paid for the education of those poor. So there are records of pupils of Etzchaim from 1637 until 1653, and then it's a few gaps, a few years of students, a few gaps until the year 1700, and then they begin in earnest, and you have lists of students until the demise of the institution by the Germans.
Yeah. If we're trying to work out when people arrived in Amsterdam, is that just looking at the sort of imposters and tzedakah lists and so on, or are there lists for when people actually join the various congregations?
There are no lists of people actually is joining the congregation, although I once did see such a list right here in this journal, but I forgot where.
Yeah.
It said no, de novo, new ones. But otherwise, the thing to do will be to transcribe these lists of members and then see from year to year how they change.
Yeah.
If someone turns up in 1630, while the memberships lists of Neve Salem start in 1616, he will not have been there before.
Yeah. Is there any way, I mean, it's a little bit off topic, but is there any way of linking these early names to other places, be it to Antwerp or indeed to the Iberian Peninsula or Rouen or whatever?
Yes, in two ways, and they are both outside the Portuguese-Jewish archives. One is the marriage bands, which usually, mostly name the place someone came from or was born in. It's not always clear if they were born somewhere or if they came from somewhere. And after a while, most of these Jews are from Amsterdam itself, of course. But new people still came in the 18th century and even late 18th century.
Yes.
But the marriage ban is one possibility, and another possibility is notarial archives, which hopefully will be indexed within the next 10, 15 years.
And there are other notarial archives elsewhere, of course, in Portugal and Spain and goodness knows where. And hopefully one day we will sort of get everything together and know what happened.
In London, alas.
Not in London, but we have other records here. I'm sorry because I've been bombarding you with questions. Shall we? If anybody else has any questions, I'm sorry, maybe I missed some questions in the chat, but let me just see. No, I don't. I'm sorry, with the questions I've missed, we've passed by this point. So, Ton, I hope we can return maybe in a couple of weeks to go through Talmud Torah, because I think the more sets of eyes we can have on these these archives, the faster we'll unlock everything that is there. If Nobody has any. Let me just double check on. Oh, Stuart is asking what were some of the occupations of members of the community.
Merchants, doctors, some were servants, and a whole variety of occupations. And when you had a certain occupation in Portugal, chances were that you were not allowed to practice them in Amsterdam, like lawyers. They had to find something else to do. But surgeons, on the other hand, could become member of the Guild of Surgeons and practice medicine. And a lot of them were poor, so they did all kinds of odd jobs. And there were also jobs in the synagogue, like cleaning and such.
Yeah, I suppose it's, for a lot of people, it must have been quite difficult. Perhaps it's like a lot of the Russian immigrants arriving in Israel, where they were sort of professors of Marxism, Leninism, or professional chess players, and you suddenly have to adapt to this completely new environment.
Like Isaac de Sola, in the beginning of the 18th century, he gave sermons for which he was given 15 guilders per sermon. He printed some stuff, so he may have made some money from the sermons that he had printed, but he also assisted at the baking of matzahs. And he studied at Ashkenazim, which means that he got some money from that. And he may also have had enough knowledge of Judaism to teach himself for a bit. For at Ashkenazim, this all merged together. Students teaching and teachers learning. So that's at least 4 sources of income that he had, and we don't know what else.
Thank you. Shall we wrap up now? And as I say, hopefully we can return in a couple of weeks to cover Talmud Torah. I'm sorry to have cut you off when I did. It just seemed a logical breaking point.
Thank you for doing that. I would have gone on. Saved me.
Next week we have Michael Was. I can't off the top of my head remember the precise.
About Portuguese naming.
Yes. Okay, excellent, because that's really useful, and we would like to thank everyone for attending, especially, of course, our patrons here on Zoom, and it was nice to see so many familiar faces here today. And thank you to Ton, not just for today, but being this overused resource, and hopefully the rest of us can start to learn how to do stuff ourselves. I'm afraid I come whining to Ton about 2 or 3 times a week, so hopefully things will get better as we go on. And so thank you, everybody. Thank you to Ton, and we look forward to seeing everybody again next week. Thank you.
Thank you.